HOA Karen called cops on my niece for kayaking. Then my niece kicked her off our lakefront property. You ever seen someone call 911 because a 12-year-old was kayaking too peacefully? I wish I was kidding, but that's exactly what happened on a warm spring Sunday when my niece Ellie decided to paddle out on our family lake, and a woman named Karen exploded like a volcano in yoga pants. I've always believed in second chances, in grace, in neighborly understanding. But that woman, that HOA president with a mouth sharper than her acrylic nails, she tested every moral fiber I had. Let me back up. My name's Nate. I'm a high school science teacher and part-time wildlife volunteer here in Montana. Our lakefront cabin's been the family since my granddad fought in Korea. Quiet place, forest hugging the water, trout jumping in the morning mist. And every summer, we host my sister's kids. This year, Ellie brought her new lime green kayak. Birthday gift. She was so proud, beaming like she'd won Olympic gold just carrying it down the path. But apparently, floating peacefully near the dock is now a felony if you ask Karen Wellingford, HOA president of the neighborhood down the trail. Even though our family cabin sits completely outside the HOA jurisdiction. Ellie had been out maybe 6 minutes. I was grilling, my sister was reading, and the sun was slipping behind the pines perfect until we heard the shouting. Sharp, nasal, and full of that HOA tone only power-hungry people seem to master. Get that child off the water. She's disturbing the nesting geese. I turned to see her, arms flapping harder than the geese themselves, face beet red and jowls trembling like she was mid-sprint. And sprinting, she was straight toward the shore, phone in hand, barking into it like she was reporting an international crisis. She's calling the cops, my sister said, blinking. Oh, I know she is, I muttered, already jogging down with a towel over my shoulder. By the time I reached the water's edge, Karen was midway through a performance worthy of an Oscar, shouting about youth vandalism, water pollution, and something about a goose that looked emotionally distressed. Ellie had paddled back in, confused but calm, clearly trying to understand what law she could have possibly broken by floating in a bright green plastic boat. That's when the sheriff's cruiser rolled up. And here's the part that still makes me laugh when I think about it, because the deputy who stepped out was none other than Deputy Lawson, a former student of mine. Solid guy, patient, and knew the area like the back of his hand. Afternoon, Mr. Sayers, he nodded. Everything all right? Would be, I said, if this lady hadn't just accused my niece of committing a federal offense with a child's kayak. Karen practically shoved me aside. She was harassing the wildlife. I demand she be removed from the property and ticketed under the HOA Environmental Bylaws section. Karen, Lawson said slowly, this isn't HOA land. This entire section is private. They're private land. But it connects to our HOA. The lake is shared water. That kayak could cause ripples that. Lawson blinked. It's a lake, ma'am. Ripples are sort of expected. Karen's jaw dropped. And that's when twist one hit. Ellie, still holding her paddle, calmly stepped forward. Actually, officer, I'd like to file a complaint. That woman called me names, screamed in my face, and grabbed my kayak by the rope. That's harassment, right? Karen's face blanched. Two was just protecting nature. Funny, Ellie replied, because you stepped right over a nesting turtle and crushed 3 eggs when you marched down here. Dead silence. Lawson frowned. Is that true? I pointed at the cracked shells, still fresh in the sand. Snapping turtle. We marked it off with a sign last week. She plowed through it like a linebacker. Karen sputtered. Well, how was I supposed to know? Lawson gave her a look that said ignorance isn't innocence, and calmly pulled out a citation pad. Twist 2. Karen didn't just crush a turtle nest. She also parked her oversized SUV half on our private shoreline trail. And it had one of those HOA stickers that gave her free access to her subdivision's docks, not ours. Technically, she had just trespassed endangered wildlife and falsely called in a law enforcement request. Ellie looked up at me with this little smirk. Can we put up a sign now? Sure can, I said. We posted it that same afternoon. A big wooden plank, painted by Ellie, right where Karen stomped down. Private property, no HOA rules. No drama, no Karens. Karen shrieked when she saw it 2 days later. 3 days later, the entire lakefront was buzzing. Karen thought she could sweep it all under the rug. She even went door to door to apologize for the misunderstanding, except she left out the parts about trespassing, disturbing wildlife, and screaming at a kid. But the neighborhood wasn't buying it anymore. Not after Ellie's sign went viral on the town Facebook group. Over 12,000 shares. The comments? Brutal. And then came Saturday. HOA meeting day. Now, to be clear, we don't belong to the HOA, never did. But Ellie? That girl walked into their public community forum with a backpack, a flash drive, and enough quiet confidence to send chills down Karen's back fat. I came with her just for backup. My sister stayed home, biting her nails. But Ellie? She marched into that clubhouse like it was Congress. Karen sat at the front, in her usual plastic throne, blouse straining, sweat dotting her temples. She smiled tight. You don't belong to this HOA. Ellie opened her backpack, pulled out a manila folder, and handed it to the lawyer seated next to the board secretary. It's a cease and desist, she said, signed by a judge. You violated 3 state statutes, including unlawful use of public resources to enforce private HOA rules and misrepresentation of property boundaries. Karen's jaw actually cracked when it dropped. The lawyer raised an eyebrow. Where did you get this? Ellie looked him dead in the eye. My uncle's friend is the county land registrar, and I interned his office last summer. Gasps rippled through the room. Ellie plugged in her flash drive to the projector and hit play. There was security camera footage from the day of the incident. Karen screaming, grabbing the kayak, stomping on turtle nests, calling 911, and then the audio. I don't care whose land it is, this lake belongs to me. These kids need to learn respect. Silence. Utter, pin-dropping silence. Then, from the back row, someone clapped. Then another. Then the whole damn. Karen stood, flustered, tried to grab the projector remote. This is manipulated. Nope, Ellie said sweetly. Time-stamped raw footage. Courtesy of our trail cam. Motion triggered. Installed for wildlife tracking. Which, by the way, we legally do through a DNR permit. Twist 3. Ellie had uploaded the footage to the state's official wildlife violation tip portal that very morning and forwarded a copy to the Department of Natural Resources. By Monday, they fined Karen $14,200 for destruction of protected wildlife habitats. But that wasn't the worst part. Turns out, Karen had falsified a boundary map in a town hall filing 2 years ago, claiming her HOA's border extended unofficially down to the shoreline. It didn't. And once county officials remeasured the lines, 3 entire lots on the lake were ruled outside HOA jurisdiction, which meant Karen lost them. 3 homes and all the dues that came with them severed ties with the HOA instantly. Her little kingdom? Cracked. Her board support? Gone. Her title? Revoked. She tried to fight it, of course. But the county didn't just remove her, they opened an investigation into HOA fraud and intimidation tactics. And that, my friend, was the final nail. By summer's end, Karen had sold her house due to health reasons. We heard she moved 2 towns over, started complaining about someone's wind chimes the first week. Figures. But Ellie? Ellie used her viral video to start a nature education channel for kids. She called it Kayak Justice. First video, what to do when a grown-up yells at you for no reason. The mayor invited her to speak at the Fall Environmental Youth Conference. She got a standing ovation and a scholarship offer from the University of Montana at 12 years old. And every time we visit the lake now, that old wooden sign still stands tall. Private property, no HOA rules. No drama, no Karens. Sometimes people stop to take pictures. Sometimes they leave flowers near the turtle nests. And sometimes I see a little green kayak gliding across the water, peaceful as ever. So tell me, was Karen right to call the cops on a kid in a kayak, or did karma paddle right back? The end.